on this. All right.
Yay! Hello, welcome to the Big Black Tent. I am Rebecca, aka Nama Freedom.
I'm Natalie Arsenault. I am Rebecca's sidekick for the show.
And today we're going to talk about whoring. Is that an
Not,
old folk word?
not to be confused with hoarding.
Hoarding,
Not to be
hoarding.
confused with there's no D, just whoring. And though both collect items, they're just a little different. It's just a little different. But yes, okay.
So the topic is uncommitted polygamy and whoring within the Black.
First of all, can you have committed polygamy?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
And I say that, look,
Dr. Witchemusnu would be proud of you for saying that. Dr.
Doctor Who?
What's his name? He's always on the Breakfast Club.
Well, look, not by my experience, but what I've heard from Will Smith's little girl.
Okay. I think she has polyamorous relationships.
Oh, okay.
That's a little different.
Okay. Well, I thought polygamy was when one person had many. So if it's a man with many wives, right?
Yes, or a
And,
woman with many husbands.
and you commit, you stay within that group.
Yes.
So this was the interesting thing because I didn't realize this. There was a South African, I know it's a broad term, but I think he was Zulu, and chief, and he had like, I don't know, 13 wives, whatever the number. It was still considered a serious scandal because he had got some girl pregnant
Who wasn't
outside
his
of
wife?
hmm?
Who was not his wife?
Who was not his wife.
Okay.
So
See.
it was like, okay, this is still holy. Like we sanction this, we agree to
Okay.
this, but when you step outside of a ceremony, that's still
Mm-hmm.
hoeing. It's still hoeing. And I
Okay.
think what America has done or what the West has done is that we say you can marry one, but we're not going to sanction the others instead of just, it's the anthropologist in me, instead of just culturally marrying all these women, because back in the day, and sometimes still, you got your own house, right? You had to really tend to these women.
I would just
Nobody
like to say that the vast majority of dudes out there can't afford one house for
That's
one.
what I'm saying. That's why this
I'm
doesn't
gonna
work.
get 10 wives with 10 houses is not in the cards.
And that's why this is turned from polygamy to just hoeing. Because nothing is
But
sanctioned, it's free for all. It's like going to the dollar store,
mhm.
in my
What if
opinion.
it's in what if it's in I don't so first of all, let's be clear that no, anthropology or not, no. So, but what if everybody agreed? What if they're like, I don't mind being your nice wife, even if I have to live in this same small house that only got 3 bedrooms and we all share bunk beds?
Well, if everybody agreed, then that would be, well, let's just break this down.
Okay.
If people agreeing is a good thing,
People agree.
right?
Yes, if you agree, if you like it, I love it. I don't really care. If it's consenting adults with other consenting adults, have at it.
If people agree, the issue with humanity is, right, there's not a lot of agreements going on, no matter what the relationship.
Well, and because on the surface, agreements always sound great when and then other influences happen, mainly emotions
That's
come
true.
into play.
Children,
Cheer. I mean, like even in like business
duties.
relationships, this always
Well, that's
sounds
true.
great when you start a business with somebody. And even though you have agreements in place and you get these legal documents and you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a great business. We got this legal documents, it's gonna be fantastic. And then decisions in this relationship, business or personal, start having to be made and people start feeling some kind of way, and then you got conflict.
Well, and then therein lies the human condition.
And there it was.
So is it really about, does it really, does it really matter then what the relationship is, because you have to deal with the ability to have conflict resolution within the terms of the agreement
You do in all relationships.
and all
In
relationships.
all relationships, business, personal, professional, all of them.
We're not going to escape that part.
No.
It just seems to be simpler sometimes if there are less, I don't want to say less people involved, but when it comes to sexual intimacy, that's
Mhm.
just so rife with.
Oh yeah, because
Right.
emotions. You got hormones getting released and all sorts of stuff. Oh yeah.
Right. Especially if it's not our culture. And that's here, at least in the States, it's not our culture. Well, at least not the polygamy is, the
And
hoeing
it
is,
could
but
even
not.
be your culture. It could be your culture, and then you disagree with your culture, right?
Oh,
You go
that's
with your
true.
culture, right? It's like there are
That's
cultures
true.
where there are arranged marriages are still a thing, and there are plenty of people who are in the culture and disagree and are like, I don't want an arranged marriage,
That's true.
right?
So if we disagree so much, then what is getting in the way of us disagreeing without also trying to dismiss each other? So I'm trying to do this nicely. What
Just,
is the issue?
just
What
say it. We in the black tent, big black tent.
okay.
Say it, big black tents.
So if disagreement is part of human nature, then why are we still killing each other because we don't agree?
Oh, that's because
What's the
people
big
don't
deal?
know how to handle their disagreements.
But we should have so much practice by now. I mean, seriously.
Good way,
Like,
'cause every generation starts new. Every generation starts new. And there are different mindsets to conflict resolution, right? There are mindsets that are more pacifist in
okay,
nature.
okay.
There are mindsets that are more aggressor and agitator in the conflict, right? There are those who believe that in order to, you gotta rule with an iron fist in the conflict, and there's, give no inch. I mean, it's a lot of different mindsets that come into it, and lots of different mentalities and all that. So,
That's true. That is so true. That's so true. You got to move around.
mhm, yeah,
That is true. Just that's kind of the spice. This, yeah.
yeah. But okay, but wait a minute. So this topic of whoring.
Because whoring is okay. So let's take because right, it's a judgment. It's a judgment.
Well,
So
no, it's not no, 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 no. Mm-mm.
you
So
don't
I
think it's a judgment?
no, it's not a judgment. No one said it's right or wrong.
Okay.
It's just the category in which the behavior for all sorts, so for all purposes of social norms has been classified, right? When you have multiple partners who are unknowing of each other and not in agreement to be there with each other, right?
Mhm.
That is the definition. And for social norms, we've all agreed to that. In the same way we all agree 2 + 2 is 4. You are welcome to believe that 2 + 2 is 7 in your own head, and that's great. And I don't disagree that it might be 7. I don't know. But for the
Right.
purposes of going along with society,
Mhm.
2 + 2 in order to speak the same language has to equal 4. We have
Okay.
definitions, right? We have definitions.
Okay. So then why do we call it whoring if, because in my mind was popping up, I had this conversation with others, transactional. It's a like in our capitalist society, it's a transaction, is it not? For better or worse, it's a transaction. I'm literally transacting.
When you say, well, so according to Oxford Languages, they actually have a judgment on the definition.
Okay.
That's why I was like, let me look this up. And in Merriam-Webster. So I'm gonna go with Merriam-Webster. So Merriam-Webster says the definition of whoring: to have unlawful sexual intercourse as or with a prostitute. That's the first definition. The
Okay.
second definition is to pursue a faithless, un- I know, right? I'm like, wow. To pursue a faithless, unworthy, or idolatrous desire.
Ooh. What? Wait. What's that? What's that one again? What? Are they talking about my relationship with my workplace?
Hey,
A single
hey.
wedding. Okay, say it again.
And interestingly enough, this right here is the clincher for Merriam-Webster. This is the context we need to talk about right here. Okay, I'm about to, here, I got it up on the screen. So does everybody notice what I'm reading from? I don't know if the glare
Okay.
is backing it up, but so the first one says, and it classifies as somewhat old-fashioned, a person who engages in sexual intercourse for pay, prostitute. That's definition number one. And this is whore as a noun.
Okay.
Offensive, right? So it classifies this one as offensive, a promiscuous or immoral woman.
Okay.
3, unclassified. So, we heard somewhat old-fashioned as a class. We heard offensive as a class. Okay, so now we have definition number 3. No classification on just says a male who engages in sexual acts for money. No judgment. That's not illegal. It's not nothing. 4, an unscrupulous person. So this is all the nouns. Verbs are to have unlawful sexual intercourse as or with a prostitute is number 1, and then number 2 is to pursue a faithless, unworthy, or idolatrous desire. What I'm concerned about is, why is it promiscuous or immoral for a woman, but definition number 3, a male who just engages in sexual acts for money? So we didn't call the woman the prostitute at the beginning. We didn't say it is promiscuous or immoral. And then the man, he just engaged in sexual acts for money. What's wrong with you? Nothing to look at here. Nothing to look at here. Keep on moving.
I mean, I think they're saying because, well, expectation is the nature of the man. Okay, I'm about to insult a lot of men, but is what it is. They'll probably agree. So I have learned, this is my life experience. At 46 years old, we are completely different, men and women.
That's true.
Completely different.
I don't care what anybody says. It's true. I agree.
Very different. There's nature and there's nurture. Men are very, very different. And the way they communicate and what their needs are is very simple, but very different. And I think we women get so confused and burdened about how simple their existence is with themselves. I mean, and sexing is a part of that.
Now let me ask this though. Are you basing this on men of the past, meaning men of 46 years in age and older? Or are you basing this on all men? Because would you say that men who are coming up now in this generation of like,
oh, I'm not talking
late teens, early 20s, that generation?
I'm not talking about them.
Okay,
that's a separate category.
Okay,
that's a separate.
Okay.
So yes, let me clarify. When I'm talking about men, I'm talking about Gen Xers.
Okay.
And above.
Okay.
This generation below Gen X, including my kids, that's a whole separate conversation, because I feel like unless they have been intentionally interrupted, right? I'm a Gen X parent, so my children have Gen X value, right? They're familiar with Gen X values, but I have to remember that there are some kids born in year 2000. It still hurts my belly saying that. Born in year 2000 who have children, right? Who have children in my classroom.
Because you are 24 if you were born in 2000.
Okay.
Like seriously, that's a lot. Okay, anyway.
Who have whole children, and if you got started around 16, 17, right?
You have several whole children.
Which have several whole children, then your brain is wired completely different from mine. Completely different. So what I call transaction, you just call it a Monday, okay? Just okay. Your definition of friend is alike. We coming from completely different.
That is very true.
You crying because somebody on the internet says something mean to you, and I'm like, but you don't even know them. So so they have completely different boundaries, schisms, scope of thinking, relationships that is it takes time for me to understand, but it's not my default. But at the same time, everybody needs to connect. everybody needs connection. Everybody needs connection. So I think, let's put it this way. I'm a Priscilla. Regardless of the trend, there is something that's going to happen to your body.
That is
Something
correct.
that's going to happen to your mind over time when you participate in whoring.
That is true.
And that's what I did not know and realize.
That is true.
So people can say what they want to say,
Mm-hmm.
right? The diseases they don't talk about. Your uterus is not a bouncing ball.
It's
Okay.
true. It's true.
All these things, penises, limp penises in your 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's
Like
true.
how you can't get it up in your 40s.
You
Oh
know?
my gosh. And I wish I had a clip. There was this grown, he was 90 something years old, Natalie, and I nearly died. I think I spit out something. And they said, you look so young. Because he looked like he was like in his maybe late 60s.
Okay.
And he said, and I'm gonna just say the word. He said, these young men do too much fucking.
Oh
Too
yeah.
much.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to him. He was like, your bone marrow,
Yeah.
your
There are whole
hormones.
there are whole beliefs out there that suggest that every time an ejaculation happens, you lose an energetic force
Wow.
of vitality.
Wow.
Yep. So you should use it wisely.
You should use
It
it
is
wisely.
there are some mindsets, and not mindsets of women, mindsets of men. There are men in these camps that are proposing these things.
And I can see with evidence, right? Because I know a lot of young people have opinions, but wisdom might get you to the truth over time. And you like, oh, okay, so that boy who was partying all night in all these clubs, okay, it's wearing on the face.
Mm.
It's wearing on the organs,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can see them bent over and diseased in their 50s.
Yeah.
So there's a cost.
Mm-hmm.
There is a cost to all of these exchanges. That's what I realized. Regardless of
Oh
judgments,
yes.
regardless of opinions, there's a cost.
Well, to be clear, in 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 life in general, and I think this is what people don't to me, this is the part that I don't think people understand. For every for every action, every decision that you make that bears action, there is a cost, and the cost, right, might be a positive one or a negative one, right? There's consequences that are positive and consequences that are negative, but so we talked about this last time, there is always a trade-off of some sort. There's always movement and energy happening, and it's ongoing, it's consistent, it's constant. And so whether you are making a trade-off for a positive or a trade-off for a negative, or you have a consequence that's going to, and the other thing is that these things don't happen immediately.
That's true.
Right? Like it's not like it's the same thing with like, eating French fries and burgers every single day. Like, that's great when you're 12 and 15 and 21 and whatever. And you're right, your cholesterol could be just fine. And I'm not putting it on anybody that your cholesterol will get jacked up, because Godspeed if you can eat burgers and fries every day and make it out here when you're 90 and have great cholesterol with no drugs helping you sustain that. But typically over time, you see over time the degradation of something, right? So so again, choices with positive and negative consequences.
Well, yeah, I like that. I like that, these choices. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not always. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I just need to lose 5 pounds this week.
This
I
week.
remember that. I remember that. Just lose 5 pounds. Now I'm like, it's been 5 years. I really need to lose this 5 pounds. But I'm not willing to work for it, right? At least I'm aware.
I mean, hey, also decisions, okay? Because it's real. I mean, it's a real thing. You got other priorities, so trade-offs.
Trade-offs. Okay. I like this because when it comes to pouring, when it comes to, because it's election season, I keep hearing it. When it comes to the big
The
black tent.
single people, y'all are hilarious single people because y'all have seasons. Okay, keep going.
We do. We ride these seasons like that's the only thing that we can
Y'all
use to
got
know when to
cuffing
go and
season.
stop. We
Yeah.
have to, you
I'm
have to
like,
be
what is this?
mindful. You have to be mindful of your seasons because I realized this was so funny. I heard this guy say, he said, I used to think it was cool, like go clubbing and stuff. He said, but now that I'm in my 50s, it's really sad when you see somebody as mature they're supposed to be hanging out in clubs, he said, and not committed to anybody because he said, you weird. At least if you have somebody in your life, they could say, that's weird. Stop. Cut that shit out. Stop. Right? You have somebody in your face to check and balance you and keep you accountable. I think for us single folks, that's what seasons mean.
Okay.
It's a check and balance of accountability. Like, stop this shit. It's over. It's time to turn the corner because it's just you. It's just
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's fair. That is fair. So then what is what's the thing? Like, are we moving into the judgment zone around whoring to suggest that it is not positive? It's not a positive. And again, anybody who knows me know I'm super judgy, so I have zero problem suggesting that. Like you make judgment
Well,
calls every day. Now I'm not going to declare what your eternal life might look like. That's not for me to propose. Like I don't know nothing about that. But like there are behaviors that people have and do, and you can classify them based on the outcomes of the decisions. If the decisions drive positive outcomes, then clearly then we are talking about positive, more than likely decisions, right? That happen. There might be some anomalies there, but generally speaking, and same thing with negative outcomes. So like I think you can make a judgment call and say,
it's just like, I guess one thing that is my concern is when, especially for us, of those of us who are I don't know, church program, whatever you could say, is the astonishment when, if we're aware, right, of our ability to choose and make choices and choose again, that's one thing because that takes a great level of responsibility, right? I did this, doesn't work out. This is really sucks, but I need to figure my way out of this. But when we keep assigning blame for our choices that we're making, whether it be who's going to be elected, whether it be, I might sound at the risk of sounding too Candace Owen-y, right, the man, or there's just certain. Okay, now I'm talking about Gen X and above. We should not be blaming the devil for the choices that we making in our lives anymore.
right.
That's Gen X and above. For those below, my concern is at this age with all this technology, I'm hearing of too many young people not aware of their autonomy, and
Yeah.
that to me is scary. They don't understand this simple concept is what I put in my mouth, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or because I slept with all these dudes, I have this disease. Somehow there's this message being pumped out that I can live my life any way I want without
Oh yeah.
consequences. Like,
Well, yeah.
what?
There's the whole if it doesn't make you happy, then you shouldn't do it, right? There's the whole pleasure principle concept that seems to be all the rage now, and everything should be pleasure all the time. If it's not pleasurable, you shouldn't do it. Don't engage in it. Don't participate if it don't. And that's the message that's out there.
That's the part
Even
to
if
me
it's
that
30
is,
seconds of pleasure.
even if the and to me it's like, have we, and no we haven't, gluttony, like it's cavities, people. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. Too much sugar is cavities, too much orgasms is homelessness. I mean like, it's one point you gotta go to work, young people. Somebody gotta go to work.
Somebody has to go to work.
You
Somebody
know,
independently wealthy, at which point they gotta go to work.
they ain't gotta go to work, but at one point that uterus is gonna give out. Just
That is correct.
okay. So it just, that pleasure principle to me is like developmental issue. Unless you have an addiction, right, where you're
Right.
struggling with something else.
Right.
At 2 years old, you went candy, 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 candy,
Right.
and stop.
Yeah.
So when are we not getting past? Because let me reel that back. Let me reel that because I keep thinking of Kim Kardashian and the booty and the lips and the butts. I'm like, that's been around for a good what 40 years now.
Been a
The
minute.
implants and
Mm-hmm.
and and soon they all start looking like cats, right? It's like, how much work
And you
can
have,
you get done
you know,
before you're unrecognizable? So the spirit of that is something else. And I think the root of it is a lack of connection with self.
oh
It's
yes,
gotta be, right?
I think so. I would agree. I think
And
is
that's the only reason why we're exchanging externally is because we're trying to get something here.
yeah, but I mean, I think we've had this conversation before about I am constantly fascinated by how many people need external validation. I
Oh,
am floored at the amount of people who need, you kind of alluded to it earlier, like the fact that people think a friend is a like, right? Like
yeah.
I've looked at people on Instagram that have talked about how Instagram changed its algorithm and now they're not getting the same likes, so now they're discouraged to post. And I'm like, so the only reason you was posting before wasn't because you just had something to say and you wanted to say it or put it out there or you enjoyed your own rhetoric or whatever the case may be, but was because you was looking for likes. And if you don't get likes, which is validation, then now you're not gonna post. Like it doesn't. And then like there's a show that I watch every time I go to my hairdresser, my hairstylist. For those people who are X and above, you know that it's a hairdresser, and anybody else beneath that knows it's a hairstylist. Okay. Um,
Oh, sorry. I was like, well, I don't understand why we have
right.
to define that. Okay.
Depending on your generation, people be like, we're going to the hairdresser. Versus hairstylist. But there's a show that comes on, and it's Love is Blind. And we watch Love is Blind, and it's always so fascinating as I watch people who proclaim they are so in love with this person. We're gonna get married, we're gonna do all these things, love them, can't breathe without them, all this stuff, followed by but you know, we really I have to introduce you to my family because if my dad doesn't like you or my mom doesn't like you,
Wow.
I just don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to like go through with it. And I'm like, nah, just the love of your life. This is supposed to be the love of your life. Like this, I did not declare this. You declared this television, recorded television. This is the love of your life. And you're telling me that you need the validation of somebody else to approve the love of your life for you to commit to the love of your life.
How old are they on the show?
They range in ages, mid 20s, mid to mid 30s. I don't think I've seen
Okay.
anybody in their 40s on there yet, but I might be a miss. But
I
yeah.
mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially 20s, checking balances. Maybe they're seeing something. Well, first of all, you're on a show called Love is Blind. But um I'm just saying, obviously, I think something's a little off there, but there's nothing wrong with trying to get the wisdom of an elder because maybe you're missing something because you are on Love is Blind, you know?
Yeah, but here's the thing though, right? Like and don't get me wrong, I'm here for you. You can certainly, I am a person who believes, does, you know, I'm not an experiential learner. That's not who I am. I am a look at how everybody else fell into the pothole. Now go around the pothole. That's me. So, you know, when you know, kid like when my sibling or family members got in trouble for doing stuff, I was like, okay, note to self, never do that because you got in trouble. Who ain't getting in trouble is me. Okay. So I'm not an experiential learner. So
Okay.
okay. So I do fully believe in talk, you know, getting perspective from people because they may see something that you don't see.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if I call it wisdom yet, because wisdom has to be proven out, but perspective from people, you know, hearing about their experiences, like all of that is important, right?
Mhm.
But for me to hang my hat on
Oh.
saying that this thing. This is supposed to be my career. This is supposed to be my passion. This is supposed to be the love of my life. This is supposed to be where I'm supposed to live. This is what. Can you
Wow.
imagine? I'm gonna take this real biblical. Can you imagine if every historic figure from the Bible needed approval from somebody else to do the thing? If Abraham had needed to go to his parents and been like, hey, look, the Lord told me I'm supposed to leave y'all. Yeah, but I need y'all to tell me that you're okay with me leaving you. Because if you're not, I'm not quite sure I'm gonna be able to follow the Lord and then birth the children of Israel. Like, I don't know what if Noah had been like, well, I know I heard I'm supposed to build this boat, but these people out here laughing at me. I didn't get no approval from my parents, my friends. I don't know if I should build this boat. And I know this
I
was all
think that's most people.
that, but that's what I'm
I think
fascinated
that's
by.
most people. Honest, I think that's most people. I just saw this experiment. It was a recent experiment on TV, or was it social, whatever. So they had this thing, this interview. People walked in for the interview. Two actors were, when they heard the bell, they'd stand up. When heard the bell, they sit down, and they kept doing this. The people who came in, nobody told them to do anything. They just started doing it because they were doing it, right? There was a one girl that came in and she didn't, she was like, whatever, right? She not an application. They asked her to leave. Brought other people in, the actors left. Everybody stands up and they sit down with the bell. They were like, this is
Oh yeah.
most people are doing this. And that, why do we have wars? Because we signed up, we enlisted. Hey, you don't have nothing to do with whoever's over there. You don't know them,
You don't know nothing about them people over there.
but you paid to kill and you'll kill.
Oh, they by follow orders. Follow orders. Well,
Most of us.
I mean, I can attest to that. So I remember I went to a I was an invited guest speaker to debate like Winston Churchill's great grandson or something. I don't remember. Anyway,
What?
yeah. At a Tea Party event. And now you think Tea Party, and it's supposed to be like all these right wing folks who are supposed to be conservative, proclaim the high ground on moral superiority for patriotism and all this stuff.
What?
So um, we're standing, he's over there, I'm over here. Um, and well, they intro us. I go back, sit down. He's gonna do his remarks first. And his opening remark was he asked everyone to stand in the audience, and there's about 150 people in this room. He asked everybody to stand. And so people stand. And I'm still seated because I need to know why you're asking me to stand, first of all. No part of this requires me to stand. So I'm gonna feel you out and see if I agree, I'll stand. If not, I'm gonna stay seated. And this room, there was not a single person that I am aware of who was a United Kingdom citizen in this room, other than this dude. And he has everyone say after him, God save the Queen. And do you know everybody in that room said, God save the Queen, standing. And I was like, what? I thought y'all was supposed to have the moral high ground on patriotism.
Wow.
And you over here talking about God save the Queen. Y'all
Most
got
people,
several seats. So it's fascinating to your point, right, about the exercise that was done in the waiting room. I mean, I've witnessed it myself, and I'm just like, and people afterwards came up to me and they were like, "Why weren't you standing? Why?" And I'm like, I'm not a citizen of the United Kingdom, and whatever happened to the Queen happened to the Queen. Like I mean, like I don't even understand how y'all still have a queendom over there because I don't really understand what their role is. They just live in fat and
right,
large while half of y'all in poverty. So I don't understand what's happening. So, but
right.
it's really weird.
It is very, very strange. And this is a big reason. This is a big reason that I don't, man, I love Bible study. I love Bible study, but I hate going to congregational church
Mhm.
because if you don't stand when they say stand, speak to your neighbor when you say speak to your neighbor, walk up to give whatever, you are really ostracized.
Oh yeah.
You are really treated horribly.
Oh yes.
Um, and yeah, it is a hive concept,
Yep.
and you are not allowed to think outside of the hive. And it disturb. I mean, look at Colin Kaepernick, it really disturbs people.
Mm-hmm.
It really disturbs. I think he was just kneeling. He wasn't throwing a fist. He wasn't doing that. He
He
was just
just
kneeling.
knelt with his little head child bowed. That was all. He could have been praying for all we know.
He could have tripped. The point
That's it.
is, why aren't you standing? We're all like, people take that to some very, very vicious places. If everybody's wearing green and you're wearing red, people do not like that.
They do not like that.
So yeah. Yeah. And I understand why people give in, because it's uncomfortable if you are looking for something externally, right? If these people have something to do with your what's that called? Livelihood,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Yep.
your family that you have to deal with. It's very, very uncomfortable to deal with the pressure that people will put on you. And any government employee knows that. Any government employee knows that, you know.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I imagine most people probably um feel that way. It is why so many injustices go without a word ever being spoken about them, because most people don't want to be caught in the line of fire. um you know
Yes.
so
Yes.
they
Yes.
go along to get along,
Mhm.
um which again has its positive and negative consequences tied to it. But yeah, and I just never thought that there was so much seeking of external validation. Like I just never,
Or maybe even
especially as
self-preservation.
adults, especially as adults. Like I get it when you're a child, don't get me wrong. Like when you're a kid and growing up and all that, I get it, what you're looking for and all of that. And there has to be a check and a balance, because you need parent and familial support in a situation, but you also need them to teach you that, you know, without this support, you also need to follow what it is you want to do, and what, especially if you proclaim that God is the one who told you to do
Yeah, ain't nobody teaching that.
it.
I mean, no one, unless you belong to
So
a special
now ask me
sect.
why I'm don't have no hope in humanity again. Ask me again.
Well, I guess I'm saying, because unless you belong to a special sect, right? Let's just throw Nation of Islam out there, right? We're within a rebellious sect,
Right.
right? You have the support of the group.
But only to do what the group wants you to do.
True.
Right. So people only support you. So this, people have asked me, like, how do I have such long-term friendships and stuff like that? And it's really because it's your life. Like people ebb and flow and change and morph and come back around and do the whole nine. Like I your opinions are your opinions, your beliefs, your things, all of that. And I believe you should have them. They do not need to align like mine. Life is probably better if they do not sound like mine. I mean, so, but we have this whole mentality, even, we're big on assimilation,
Well, yeah. Yeah.
right? Big on assimilation. Like we believe, you see it in the United States, we believe in freedom until your freedom look different than my freedom. Then I don't believe in your freedom no more.
So then that's the fear. What are we afraid of? What are we so well, okay, stop. Black people, we understand what we're afraid of, because just one generation ago,
That's correct.
right? I'd be too different and I'm looking like
You
Emmett
look
Till.
like Emmett Till. That's correct. That is correct. If
So
you
that's
lucky,
one way.
if you're lucky, if they find your body and they didn't feed it to the alligators. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So that's the get in line. And I think that's probably the prime motivator of get in line,
Right.
right? Or we'll off you.
Yes. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with I
People don't
don't
want to be
disagree
off.
with where the mindset comes from.
You said
Just
what?
I said I don't disagree with where the
Okay.
mindset comes from. I just want us to
To get.
tweak it a little bit. Just.
So how was it with something that is so common as whoring, right? That's against the societal norm until it's not, because
Is it
technically it's
though?
not.
I don't know if it's
Not
against.
anymore. Not anymore.
I don't know if it ever was. I don't. I know it was against the spoken word norm of society, but forever and a day, like presidents have had their side pieces that everybody knew
Yeah,
about.
but side piece.
Then a
Not
side
the
piece
main dish.
constitute, yeah, but don't side piece constitute whoring behavior?
Yes, but it was like keeping up appearances. That's what it used to be.
Oh,
You can
okay.
still
You would
keep
keep
up
up appearances. Okay.
appearances.
Okay.
Right now, it don't matter. Especially
Yeah.
if I'm talking about the younger kids, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Because I feel at least with me, most Gen Xers, we would say, yeah, I'm shacking as an admonition of I know what I'm doing is not right, but I'm doing it, right? But with the young folks, it's like, how dare you shame me?
Yeah. Right.
How
Right.
dare you judge me?
Right. Right.
Did that
Right.
uterus start talking to you? I'm just giving you some advice. So just saying, it comes back around, ladies. It
No,
comes back around.
things come back around.
but
Everything.
but with that, this is my wonder. If we can take responsibility for how that's evolved over time, going from the side piece to main piece, then all these other things, is it because, wait a minute, is it because that became the norm? So it must be when things become normalized, but they still
Mhm.
expect you to be in norm with the group,
Yeah.
no matter how the group shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yes.
groupthink.
Yes.
It's groupthink. So who was the person, like for instance, right? Was Putin, whatever. Putin, whoever. So who's that one person who'll rise up and start saying differently? And then the group decides to follow that one person.
They've had psychological studies on how movements get started and change culture. They did like some study at the beach where there were like three people dancing at the beach or whatever, and then another person came in, and these people were like all paid, and like when once it got to like I don't remember what the number was, but it was like a low level double digit number. Um, Everybody else on the beach also thought that it was okay to, right?
Uh,
So I think there's like whatever the number is that constitutes critical mass to shift the scales, right? Because it's not enough for one person to do it or two people to do it, or even for a leader to come out and publicly declare that it can be done or should be done, right? I think it has to have multiple components, including critical mass.
multiple components, including critical mass. So
Within
what
the
black,
subculture.
you said what?
Within the subculture.
Within the sub, okay. So what is it about our tent in which we've had multiple moments of civil rights movements, we've had multiple moments of we shall overcome. If I'm still right, we're still like the lower 30%. We're still in poverty, we're still dying the most. And I keep thinking every generation we're reaching critical mass, but there's something that happens we're not
We don't have
progressing.
critical mass. First of all, we only like 13 or 14% of the population. So even if every last single one of us held hands to sing Kumbaya, look at us now. It's still not.
But what if it was even just within our group? Even if it was just within us.
But what are we saying to ourselves? Because you can't. This is the interesting thing I think about like the
Us.
systems that play right now, right? The power
Uh-huh.
structures and things like that is that, and this applies to any of the oppressed groups of people, you name it, whatever. Like you have to have the critical mass support of the group that is oppressing you.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you don't get nowhere. You don't get you don't get what you need and what you're really looking for as that plant the flag accomplishment without them. So it's the same thing as like, women in corporate America, right? And while we know that it has disproportionately supported white women in corporate America, so when they say that it's really white women in corporate America, the bottom line is white men had to sanction it.
Yeah.
You aren't getting to the boardroom without a sponsor of a white male getting you in there. You just can't. If you have to have a gatekeeper to let you in, like somebody has to say, this person is with me at this party and they're okay, so let them in. And then you get one, right? And then, whatever happens, whatever happens. Then you have another that does whatever. Then you have another that does whatever. Right? And then suddenly you have a preponderance of white men who are okay with women in executive positions.
That is so
Who are
disturbing.
sponsoring them, who are supporting them, who are mentoring them, who are helping them maneuver, who are opening up positions for them, who are putting their names into rooms, all of that. If you're not in the room, right? And that's what I'm like, it doesn't matter how much demonstrating and all of that. If you're not in the room or no one's putting you in the room, then it's probably not going to happen, barring a miracle like manna from heaven. So I never dismiss miracles. So miracles happen. Um, but through the standard operating procedure manual, it's probably not gonna happen.
That is so depressing.
I mean, but how would it happen?
I was thinking about Harriet Tubman, right? I was thinking about how, because I understand later that's how it looked, right? Later she had to have the support of white males.
She had people housing her along the way. If she ain't had nobody house to hide in, I'm saying, I'm like, if she ain't have nobody's house to hide in, no one who was willing to vouch for her when she got up north, like none, like if she had got up north and somebody would have been like, "Ooh, girl, you done ran away. We need to bring you back." You gonna get brought back? And like what else? Somebody of an acceptable stature had to be there to say, she's with me.
That's too much power. That's way too much power. That's way too much power. That's way too.
And it's a thing that's been around since the beginning of time. It's all over the Bible. It's imprinted all over the Bible. You think about Joseph with the king's favor. King was like, he's with me.
Way too much power. Okay, I remember that there was a scripture. I don't know where it is in the Bible, where the people, the Hebrew people, were begging God for a king. They were begging him for a king, and they were like, "You don't need a king. You got me." But they wanted a king. They wanted this structure.
Yep. Because
And because they saw what?
they saw other people. They wanted what other people had.
And now we can't get rid of this structure.
You can't get rid of it. But he told you. He told you what you was gonna get when you got a king.
Well, how about this? Okay, and I've heard there was some societies in on the African continent where even though that there was a king, and I know this ain't Africa here, but even though there was a king, the king, because it was, well, I don't know if it was a matriarchal society, maybe it might have been, but whatever the case, the king was not the all-knowing king. The king was voted in by the community.
Okay.
And those women and men that raising the elders, if he got crazy and out of line, then they could say, you need to step to the side until you can get some help, we'll replace you. But he couldn't just willy-nilly his
I mean, but
willy-nilly.
that's what our system is supposed to be, right? Our system is our current system at play is this constitutional republic that we have here. It's supposed to be where people vote, right? So that's the voice,
Right.
and you put other representatives of whatever into seats of power who are supposed to vote the way that their constituency wants. And if they get out of control, there are bylaws where Congress or the state Senate or state house, the judiciary, there are lots of things short of people also just voting them out the next election year
Mhm.
can do things. We
How
just
does
don't
it?
exercise those constraints.
We just don't exercise
We
it.
don't
Okay.
exercise it. We have very little discipline because I am still perplexed as to how Congress, since I have been immensely politically active, which was most of my life and a good chunk of like starting since I was before 18. Anyway, Congress has had a sustained approval rating of less than 20%, and it's usually around 10 or 11. And the vast majority of Congress is still there.
Yeah.
That was there
It's the
50 years
70s.
ago, 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Sheila.
Sheila,
Make it.
Chuck, all like they are there. And you got eight term congressmen, and you just like, wow, with 11% approval, you just in there hanging out. Great. Right. So, we fail to exercise what you just described. And maybe it's because we're so big and unwieldy, right? Because the other part of this, I think, now that we get into like American politics, which is also whoring. Okay. Um,
To the highest bidder. Okay.
highest bidder. Um, but we're 350-ish, 60-ish million people in the country. We are we are one of the largest legit constitutional republics / people will argue with me and claim it's a democracy, even though it's not democracies, right? Like China is a communist country with 1 billion people. It's the reason why they got a dictatorship. He like, shut up, 1 billion people, sit down. And because who voting? He like, I don't want to hear y'all vote. It's 1 billion of y'all. I'm just gonna tell you what to do, right? But like when you look at like European countries, you're talking about countries got like 20 and 40 million people. That's really different.
Yeah.
Like that's Texas.
Yeah.
Texas. So like it's a lot to try to wrangle 350 or 60 million people and align them to a specific course of action.
You do it with the song, Natalie. You do it with the song. I'm proud to be an American where at least I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that is some serious perspective because I didn't really enter into politics until Obama was running.
Okay.
Right. And you can get voted to each section of the county and move yourself up. I didn't know that system. That I didn't know the parliamentary system, and I didn't realize I was really tripped out that, oh, y'all can't close this meeting until we all agree, and like just anybody stops objecting, right? I object, we keep this thing going.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really surprised at how much power we had on the local level.
Yes.
And I didn't realize how ignorant I was that they could be saying all kind of stuff to me and I wouldn't know what they were saying because I didn't know the speech.
You didn't know the rules. Yeah.
I didn't know let's stop right there. Okay. So to quote, who was the dude? I watched him on YouTube this week on comedy hype comedy. The dude who played Lamont.
Lamont who?
I'm sorry. On Sanford and Son.
Oh, I don't know his name, but I know who Lamont on Sanford and Son is.
Okay. So he's been coming out, and I love it. He's been coming out talking just like our parents would talk. I mean, just cutting, just cut. He's been talking. And they were asking him about Diddy and stuff. And I love what he said. He said, first of all, this stuff has been going on since the inception of Hollywood. He said, you have a bunch of people who are playing a game and they don't know the rules.
Don't know the rules.
Period. You making agreements and then it's too much for you and you can't handle it. He said, but these are agreements. This is done by consent.
It's done by consensus. And then people grow a conscience later on and they like, man, I can't believe I did all of this to get here. And then they want to, backtrack and all this other stuff. Or you piss off the wrong person and then they be like, you need to settle down or else I'm about to let some people know, right? Like, yeah, Yeah, no, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but um, you know, it's a consensus driven thing usually. People
Yeah,
are
he said, unless it's
agree.
children in which their
Yeah,
parents consented,
correct, which is horrible.
you
Right.
know, which is horrible. He said, grown, he said, if you 18 and up, that means you consented to
You
something.
consented to something. I'm telling you, so I told you to check out American Gods. I'm telling you, check this out on
Mhm.
Netflix. The
Okay.
House of Usher, The Fall of the House of Usher.
Okay.
If you
The
haven't
fall.
seen it,
Mm-mm.
it is okay. And I'm spoiler alert for anybody who might watch this later on. Don't listen to what I'm about to say because you will not watch the show if you're a person who don't want to know about how it ends. But essentially, it is this family who started off poor, rose to power in the pharmaceutical industry. And what we end up finding out at a later point in time is because they made an agreement with some spirit entity, call it what you want to call it, some spirit entity they make an agreement with at a bar on New Year's Eve one night when they were younger, like in their 20s and stuff. And that agreement, and this is the thing that I don't think people get, the agreement was, you can have all the fame, all the fortune, you can do all the deeds you want to do. You will never get touched legally. You will never have any consequences associated with this. And this agreement will last for as long as you last. And when you die, your entire lineage dies. Do you accept this agreement? Fame, fortune, all the things, celebrity, power, squashing people like bugs, the whole nine. You can have it all. However, just know when you die, and you will operate with impunity.
Wow. Then
When you
all your
die,
children die. All of your,
that is
wow.
correct. They had a little granddaughter who was the sweetest little girl ever. She was trying to do what's right. She was trying to wrangle her whole family. When they died, she died too.
That's real. That's a real thing. Listen to me. Those be a so okay. Okay. So choices, agreements, um, what are we choosing? What are we agreeing to that,
Mm-hmm.
that is keeping us in a certain place we don't want to be, or that is propelling us forward? But
And you know what the thing is about agreements that I think, and this is what I would like to leave everybody with today. I mean, I know conversation will go on, but this if I don't say nothing else for the rest of this show, this is the thing I want people to think about with agreements because people always tell me that I am like, when I look at scenarios, that I am extreme with the angles at which I put a scenario into and run it
okay.
through a scenario, right? What I run it through to get to the different angles, people are often like, "That's extreme. It's never gonna happen." Da, 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 da. And my thing is, you need to go with whatever your decision is in life. You need to take that decision out to the most asinine extreme known to mankind. And then if you're okay with what that thing is, then do the thing. And I'll give you a perfect example. So I have no kids, never wanted kids ever. I was like, under no circumstances do we want children. Um, and so at one point in my life, I was using a birth control pill.
Okay.
And there are all kinds of consequences, side effects, birth control pills, all sorts of things. Up to, and I was reading the pamphlet before I, started taking them, and it said up to and including death. There have been people who have taken this pill and they have died. Few people, right? Like it's probably one random person in a billion people, right?
Mhm.
And I thought about that and I was like, do I not want children so bad that I'm willing to die early to not have kids? And I was like, I sure am. Pop this pill. Right? Because people always think that, oh, it's the 0.001%, and but what if you are the 0.00001, because it happened to someone, right?
That's true. That's
And
why it's
so
in writing.
you have to be good with the consequence, right? You got to be good with it. And if you're not good with it, then you probably shouldn't do the thing.
Ooh, that's deep. And that is necessary. And that's needed. That is called commitment.
That's called commitment, something that we often lack. But
that is called commitment. Yeah. That is called certainty. I like that, because you're talking about commitment, you're talking about boundaries, you're talking about knowing yourself, you're talking about responsibility, like to the extreme of it. What is my decision here? What am I deciding to do?
correct.
And that takes ownership. That takes responsibility, right? And I think that's the struggle, though. That is the struggle for us, saying, okay, I chose this.
Correct.
I have to own this. I have to eat this.
Correct. And it applies to big and little things. I mean, you get in the car every day. There's plenty of people who get in cars and don't come back home.
That's true, but I'm
When you
committed
get
to
in the
driving.
car, right?
Not walking.
Here's the thing. So when you get in the car for whatever, whether you're just going to work or you are going to the grocery store or you go and hang out with friends, whatever the case may be, that activity that you're getting ready to engage in should be important enough that if you don't come home, you're good with it. You're good with the fact that I made the decision.
You got me rewrite my will right now. Move to the country. I'm in a bunker. I get too much responsibility.
It's a thing, right? It's why, like, people ask me, like, why they're like, not all money is good money, right? Period. And I'm not the one who starts saying that. That's somebody else is saying, but not all money is good money. So, like, if I'm getting on a plane for a client, and I love flying, like I travel the world, all things. If I'm getting on a plane for work, I need to love the work that I'm doing or the client that I'm doing it for. If I'm driving myself to an office, or I'm like, so it's not just like, oh, with medically induced pharmaceuticals, I need to read the label. I mean, like, in everything in life, you need to be conscious.
Okay, so this is
interesting.
This is what I struggle with, because I consciously realize I hate stuff.
Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Me and my husband had this fight all the time.
I'm consciously aware that I hate stuff, and I'm like, this is not working. And I'll say, but I don't know what else to do.
But we'll stop doing that because you don't like it. You figure out what to do in the interim. But like, my husband and I have this fight all the time because he's so when we first met, he said that I wasted food because if I take a single bite of something and I don't like it, I don't care how much I paid for it. I'm not eating it. I don't like it. Why am I going to eat it?
Now, that means that somewhere in you growing up, that somebody nurtured that.
Well, yes and no, right? Yes and no. I mean, I grew up in a household where we had choices for food. I didn't grow up in a household where my mom and dad were like, whatever I make, you eat. Like, that wasn't the household I grew up in, right? I grew up in a household where if I wanted something and my brother wanted something and my mama wanted something and my daddy wanted something, we went to 4 different places because everybody wanted something different.
Oh,
right?
Wow. Okay.
Now, I don't know. Now, my dad was a big believer in not wasting food, right? So I definitely did not get that from him. But I just know that if you, and this goes back to the pleasure principle, right? And the consequences. So why would I consume something that's probably not even healthy anyway, right? So you went out, you went to some restaurant, some casual fast dining restaurant, whatever. You get a burger or Parmesan chicken, whatever it is.
Right.
And if it don't taste good, why would you consume it? You don't
grooming. To me, there's no other word but for grooming. It's so interesting. We have these drastic different experiences. I was raised in a house God bless his psychotic soul. I was raised in a house where I don't know what happened to anyway, where it was like, if you don't eat this, I don't know, I may kill you tonight. Like, I don't know what the big deal was for a 3-year-old to swallow these Brussels sprouts. But I remember so many whoopings around the kitchen table over, you will eat this. That had to be, in my grown adult mind, you had to suffer a psychosis. I don't care if my kids eat or not, they're going to die. Starvation takes care of, if you're really hungry, you eat it. So
Sure.
I don't make them eat stuff they don't eat because of my experience. They don't like because of my experience. But I just remember whatever was going on, it had to be eaten. And I remember in my 3 or 4-year-old self making the decision and saying, you just gonna have to beat me today. Cause
I mean,
I'm not doing this.
it's a thing. Well, and the other thing too is I think, and maybe some of it has to do with exposure, right? Because from a food perspective, I was exposed to a lot of things. Like, I ate asparagus and broccoli and, eggplant and melatonin, like all the things. And then I just kind of decided the things that I did and did not like, right?
And
Like
then somebody had to hear you, somebody had to accept you, somebody had to
right.
validate you. I think we are groomed into these
Oh, I
crazy ass
agree.
lanes where
Oh,
it's
I
like,
agree.
I found myself eating stuff subconsciously, like, why am I eating this? It took me years to get out of that. Stop eating this shit. You don't like
I
it.
eat it. You don't like it. You don't
Yeah.
like it.
And I have to do that to everything else. Like, why am I here? I hate it here. Why am I here?
It breaks my heart every time I am talking to someone who I'm coaching or someone who I'm mentor, and they tell me that they are like unbearably unhappy at the job that they're in. And I'm like,
I
is
think it's
too
a
many other
sense
jobs
of,
out there.
we don't, I'll throw myself in that. It's, and maybe it's the hive. Maybe because we are surrounded by people who actually do the thing that they hate, right? It's the mentality, it's the lack of mentality. You didn't grow up seeing it. So a lot of times, Natalie, what you described to me is like a unicorn. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even have the capacity to even understand what she was saying. I don't even know. Like, I don't even believe her, really.
Show me the receipts. Let me see them receipts again. Can I see the receipts
I
again?
mean, it's so sad, but right until you get there, it's just not your lived experience.
Sure.
And you have to build the capacity to
You do.
even
You
see it,
do.
accept it, and receive it.
You do.
That's how deep this slave mentality thing is.
You do. You do. Well, and I also think it does help. It does for some people. Um, you need more than imagination. So for some people, it does help to see a person do the thing, right?
Yeah.
Other people can survive on their imagination alone, and they're like, "Look, I can see it in my head, therefore I'm gonna go do it." Right? All types of people out there, but
That's true.
but yeah, I mean, I just, and this isn't about like a pleasure principle mentality. You are going to work, right? Either unless you hit the lotto or you come into some inheritance and you become independently wealthy, you have got to pay for rent and lights and all the things. So this isn't about pleasure principle and only doing whatever make you happy and all this other mess. You have to work. And if you're going to work, there are 80 gajillion companies out there. Like, and I get you have to do what you have to do in the time frame, but like right now, you can't just quit because again, you got bills to pay. So you can't just walk away. You need to have a job you're going to, okay? Because they will come cut off your lights and kick you out. But why can't you start the search? Like, why can't you look? Like, it's fascinating how many people are unhappy in their jobs. And I'd be like, well, have you started looking? Have you updated your resume? Have you? No, I'm like, then you clearly ain't that unhappy. Because LinkedIn, between LinkedIn, Monster, Career Builder, ZipRecruiter,
Oh, you telling your age.
everybody in their
Monster.
Child monster. Everybody. I'm like, if you were unhappy, you would be out there. You would be out there.
You're right. Yes. I think depression is a factor with that too. I think the hopelessness, and there's like this slippery life story. It's a slippery slope when people are going towards a transition change, which we all know people don't like change.
Don't like it. Even good ones, they
Right.
don't like it.
They don't like change,
I have
Go ahead.
it said it's why I have a career. So yeah, people don't like it.
People don't like change. So it's like the devil I know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus something I don't know. And there's something about that transition that's uncomfortable, even if it's the thought, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
the search. And I think there's something about that anxiety, even if it's good for you, um, it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good. And people, just kind of shrink back into, well, I do know how to do this. I do know that she is the devil. I know how to deal with that devil.
That's true.
Relationships, jobs, it just the whole change thing that we've talked about before. But
Yeah.
change is uncomfortable, and how to move us past the change. I've also been thinking about you very recently because might be getting way off topic. There was a conversation we had about Africa,
Uh-huh.
right? And how it's like, oh, you can move to Africa and Ghana giving away all sorts of visas and, come back to Africa. We zone 6. And you said it because what's been now populating is what has been happening to a lot of Black expats in the diaspora, right? People don't like change. Y'all showing up over here
And
with
not
your Americanisms.
that's correct. Trying to change, trying to serve hamburgers at noon.
Right? People being jacked, killed, communities destroyed. Not to say that that's everywhere, but really focusing on the utopia that I can create here versus externalizing every experience
Right.
is something better has been important. Like I get to choose where I want to hoe.
Right. That is correct.
I could I could choose where I would like to hoe.
Yes.
Okay. So I could see fear,
Mm-hmm.
fear of change, fear of transition,
Uncertainty.
uncertainty. Those are things that keep us stuck. Those are the things that keep us maybe, right? If
Right.
whoring is the lack of connection to myself, right? Seeking external validation,
Mm-hmm.
um, that might give me comfort. Maybe I don't whore in the physical, but I do whore with
Oh, there's
foods
a
I
lot of
shouldn't
ways.
eat,
Yeah.
right? It makes
That
me feel
again.
better.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Right, overeating.
Yep.
That would be my number one. So overeating or overindulging with foods and
Overindulging.
snacks, and before you know it, I'm on that resume builder, and I've done passed out because I ate the muffins from Trader Joe's. They were so tantalizing and helped me with my anxiety,
Oh my
and I
God.
got
It's
to start again
true.
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's not, it doesn't, I mean, again, the whoring is not, I mean, we classically think about it in the terms of sexuality, but
Right, it's an external it's an exchange that I needed for the moment,
mhm,
right? That has its consequences. So,
mhm.
what do you do? What do you do as a change agent? What do you do to work yourself through that change?
Well, I mean, well, first of all, I would say this conversation has been illuminating because what has dawned on me is that if there is anything that because change is constant, it is inevitable and it is always, period. Um, so if there's anything that you can teach your child, it is how to be nimble and agile. And that way, the notion of change doesn't, as they get older, it doesn't put the fear of God in them, that they are open to, okay, it isn't working here in Houston. Maybe I need to go to Dallas. Maybe I need to go to Seattle. Maybe I should go to Iowa.
Wow.
Maybe I should whatever. It's not working at this company. Maybe I should go to this other company. This relationship isn't working. Maybe I need to get out of this relationship. This whatever. That you just get comfortable in the fact that change is constant. And how do you stay prepared, right? And I'm a fan of staying prepared. Like I don't like to me, the way you navigate it best is to stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Oh, okay. That's the next podcast. That's deep.
Yeah. And that's with all things. All things. And it's not that you're just gonna suddenly wake up and be ready, but you should be constantly adding to your package of tools to get you through, right? So, I mean, I used to run marathons up until about 10 years ago. And the reason I ran them, because I didn't start, it wasn't like I was a distance runner. Coach Grimes, who you know, used to try to make me run a mile, and I'd be like, look, girl, I'm a 100, 200, maybe a 400 kind of chick. We're not getting down with multiple laps around this thing, okay? So I went from that in high school to, running marathons in my late 20s. Um, and riding my bicycle from Houston to Austin and like all the stuff. But it was because I was like, I want to know that I have endurance in me. Right. That I want to know that my brain can handle, 8 hours on a bike or 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, whatever, running. Like I want to know that my brain can handle it, my body can handle it, whatever. And I think it's the same thing. Like people ask me all the time, I interview, even if I'm not looking for a job. I will float a resume out there, take an interview or two. First of all, you never know who you're gonna meet. You never know what offer's gonna come. But I just think it's good practice. It's good practice to stay interview ready. And I don't think you should wait until your job is abysmally horrible. Like, I think that you need to have options along the way that you weigh. That's in all of life.
I like that. It sounds like you are very aware of what America is. Regardless of your personal life, you are very aware and stay in the mode of, opportunism.
Yeah.
Where you stay ready, where the commitment is to yourself, not this job, not this, but to improving yourself and loving what you love and going that direction.
Yeah.
That's so
And
commitment to self.
Yeah, I think that's the best. That is the best way to stay ready as a whole.
That's deep because I think by this end of the conversation, in the beginning, we're talking about whoring is in exchanges with another person, but now I see it more biblically, if you will. Like anytime I externalize my joy, right, that is whoring. That is external validation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As bees a hoe.
Right.
That is. I've not been committing to myself.
That is hilarious. Never too late to start. Never too late.
Myself. And if you're in survival mode, right? That's an instance of whoring.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just going to where the money is.
Yeah. And it's hard to make decisions when you're in survival mode. So like that's what I get it why people, deal with sexual harassment or discrimination or don't stand up for a colleague who they see or whatever the case may be, because if you are living, what is it, foot to mouth or hand to mouth or whatever, like you don't have the freedom to exercise your decision as freely and as quickly as you would like.
Ooh, so whoring presents a lack of freedom. Now, and we're thinking in this society that that's the ultimate freedom, right? I could be with and do whatever, but it's not.
Not. Look at you connecting dots for people listening in.
What? Here I thought that I was hoed and free. That's not it, ladies. That's not it. You're building a bigger prison when I cannot validate myself from within, stay ready from within. That's pretty deep. That's freedom. Investing in me is freedom. And if I'm constantly selling myself to the highest bidder, I'm a slave. I'm sex trafficking myself.
You're a slave to somebody else. That is correct.
You're a slave to somebody else.
Minimal ability to make decisions for yourself.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Thank you. This has been very insightful and life-changing for me. I'm going to do better now that I know better. Because I don't want to be a whore.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
You don't want to get an economic STD.
An economic STD. Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
You don't
spiritual
want it.
STD.
You don't want a spiritual STD. That's the stench of slavery and not the stench of freedom.
The stench of slavery.
Stench of slavery is a funky spiritual STD. Ooh, that's so many.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And it's
just the graphics alone. Ooh, a spiritual STD. We have to coin that phrase. Put that back there.
Check the box. Which STD have you contracted? Economic, spiritual, emotional, relational, sexual.
That smells really bad.
Right, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, people.
Okay, this is good. But we have the cure, and the cure is self.
Yes.
The cure is self, coming back to self, validating self and self-fulfillment.
Yes.
Strange, Natalie, strange.
Self, with a lot of wisdom sprinkled on self.
With a lot of wisdom sprinkled on self. That's deep. And it's deep that there is a way out, right? There's a way out. I don't have to just sit in my stench. I don't have to just sit there.
Nope.
You know.
You do not. You do not. You can take a bath and clean yourself up. And it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. You can do a lot of things. You do not have to sit in it. You not marinate and roast.
You can take the gyne-lotrimin of choices. Is that still a product?
That's correct. You get rid of your stench.
Your stench. I love it. Yes. Look, if nobody else got anything, I got something. Thank you.
You're so silly. We all got something today. We all got something today.
Man, I feel so empowered. That's a perfect visual. That's a perfect visual. It really is.
Yay for empowerment. We love it. We love it.
I'm gonna scrub off the STD of HISD. Cancel.
Only after you have something to plug in.
Only after. But for now, I'll just make sure and have a contraceptive.
That's correct.
The contraceptive of transition.
That's correct. Look at you go. It's one thing we love here, people. It's a good metaphor. Yes. Yes.
These are t-shirts. This is merch, Natalie.
Merchandise. Will soon be a click here to buy sign. That's hilarious.
All right, ma'am. It's past both of our bedtimes.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Okay. Well, thank you. Blessed be. And until next week.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.